Imagine you are stuck on the side of the road at 2 in the morning with a broken axle, or you are sitting in a sterile hospital waiting room holding bad news. In that exact moment, who do you call? For most people, a name immediately comes to mind, but for a hidden, massive portion of the population, the answer is no one. That emergency contact line stays entirely blank. This silence exposes a systemic flaw in our modern world. It is the result of living in a society that rewards those with built-in connections while quietly forgetting everyone else. Absolute isolation represents a structural failure of community, a vacuum we have quietly accepted as a normal part of daily life. The World Health Organization now tracks severe loneliness as a global health epidemic, identifying it as the fastest-growing crisis of its kind. This visualization compares the physical damage of chronic isolation to daily tobacco use. The data reveals that being completely alone damages your body at the exact same rate as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, directly increasing your risk of heart disease, stroke, and dementia. The digital landscape creates a specific paradox. You can spend all day surrounded by thousands of voices on social media and still go to sleep knowing nobody is tracking your safety or noticing your absence. These individuals are often the most giving members of their communities. They have simply ended up on the wrong side of social structure that prizes extroverted networks. Our current environment rewards those who are naturally connected, effectively abandoning everyone else to a lethal health risk. Absolute isolation happens through a gradual erosion of a person's social safety net. It is a slow, unnoticed process that occurs over decades. This network graph illustrates the first path: relocation. You move, old ties fade over distance, and neighbors remain strangers until the circle dissolves entirely. A breakup creates similar damage. The social ecosystem splits. Friends choose sides, leaving one standing in the rubble of their life. For others, the pattern began in childhood. If deep, vulnerable connection was never modeled at home, a person grows up without the tools to move relationships past the surface. They remain well-liked by many, but truly known by nobody. There is also the tragic reality of simply outliving your history. As parents, siblings, and lifelong peers pass away, the few people who knew your whole story disappear. Having no one to call is the mathematical result of life transitions compounding silently over time. Survival without a network requires a specific psychological adaptation: extreme hyper-self-sufficiency. You handle the car breakdowns, the illnesses, and the terrible days entirely alone because you have no other choice. Eventually, you learn to shrink your own needs to match your reality. You convince yourself that you prefer being alone and that you don't actually need people. This outward appearance of being low maintenance is a draining adaptation. It is a survival mechanism disguised as a personality trait. Because society treats loneliness as a personal failure, the isolated are forced to perform okayness. They pretend their lives are full to avoid being judged as defective. This shame makes the epidemic entirely invisible. The isolated hide their pain, ensuring the world keeps moving without noticing they are struggling. The assumption that isolated people are cold or difficult is a myth. Because they know exactly how it feels to be invisible, many of these individuals develop a heightened awareness of others. They notice the small details and show up for people in ways that others overlook, driven by an intimate understanding of what happens when no one checks in. Forced solitude also cultivates rich inner worlds. The hours of quiet space often lead to deep creative outputs, writing, art, and ideas that only surface when a person has lived extensively within their own thoughts. Facing life's hardest moments without assistance builds a unique form of resilience. These people know they can survive the absolute worst because they have already done so repeatedly. Those standing alone are often the strongest members of any room, quietly supporting others while they themselves remain unsupported. If you have no one to call, understand that your situation is a byproduct of a fractured modern world. It offers zero evidence regarding your worth or your ability to be loved. To those with a safety net, identify the person in your life who seems perfectly fine and never asks for anything. Bypass the superficial likes and comments. Send a real message. Ask a genuine, probing question about how they are actually doing and listen to the answer. The person who most desperately needs a lifeline is often the one whose circumstances have conditioned them to never ask for one.